Let's kick off. So you're all very welcome to our event today to launch our Enterprise Ireland UK Life Sciences Manufacturing Sites database. Myself and Mary-Claire Henry are your hosts, and we're joined by Geoff Davison, CEO of Bionow. Before we start, we just want to run through some housekeeping rules. All attendees are automatically placed on mute with your cameras switched off. The webinar will be approximately an hour and the database presentation will take about 25 minutes, so there'll be plenty of time for Q&A at the end. There is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'd encourage you to use this throughout the session. Mary-Claire will go through the Q&A with Geoff at the end of the presentation. Following the event, we'll email you with the link to the recording of the webinar, and the database will be emailed to our Enterprise Ireland clients as well. If you've joined us today and you're not a client, thank you very much for doing so. We do welcome the opportunity for you to discuss potential collaboration areas with Enterprise Ireland. So Geoff, if you just want to go to the next slide, we just talk about Enterprise Ireland. Who are we? For those people on the call today who are not aware of our organisation, we're the Irish Development Agency for Trade and Innovation, and we support over 5,000 Indigenous Irish companies across various sizes of scale and growth. We are a team of experienced sector specialists based in the UK, where we've got about 20 market advisors in our team covering all sectors. Our responsibility is for building long-term partnerships with leading global companies and to provide market insights and knowledge of the UK to our client companies, and that's why we're here today. We also help you to source your strategic partner in the UK, and we help companies source a solution to their business needs. Geoff, you want to go to the next slide? So just to introduce myself, my name is Brocklebank, and I'm Senior Market Advisor based in Manchester. Mary-Claire is with us today as well, and Mary-Claire is Senior Market Advisor for Life Sciences and Healthcare based out of our London office. We split the pharma portfolio between us, so not to confuse everybody, but Mary-Claire is responsible for clinical R&D and drug development in pharma, and I look after pharma manufacturing specifically. But Mary-Claire is also responsible for medtech manufacturing and the healthcare portfolios. If you want to go to the next slide, thanks, Geoff. So why are we here today? In February 2020, we launched our first UK Pharma report, which provided a really high-level overview of the UK pharma manufacturing landscape. And Mary-Claire launched the medtech manufacturing report this year, and we've recently just launched our human pharma landscape report for the UK and Switzerland. If you haven't seen these reports, they're both available on our Global Ambition website. The web link is at the bottom of the screen there, but also feel free to contact us directly and we can make the reports available to you. So I suppose just the reason we're here today is that we have found that the UK pharma and medtech manufacturing sectors are very complex in the UK compared to Ireland. It's been quite challenging for our clients to get a really clear picture of which sites in the UK are actually manufacturing and to then understand what exactly is happening at those manufacturing sites. So Enterprise Ireland commissioned Bionow to create a database for our Enterprise Ireland clients to gain clear and in-depth intelligence on the manufacturing sectors, the types of companies that are manufacturing, what aspects and key functions of manufacturing is undertaken at the sites, and the product types and the format of production. So the database that Bionow have created for us is in Excel format. It'll become an interactive document, and the webinar today will give you a really good overview of the database and how to use it for your own purposes. So I'll hand you over now to Geoff Davison, CEO of Bionow, who developed the database with his team, and he's going to tell you more about Bionow, the UK life sciences sector. He's going to bring you step by step through the database. Thanks, Geoff.
Thanks, Laura and Mary-Claire. Good morning, everyone. Just sort of do a quick slide to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, and I think that's probably most of you, I'm Geoff Davison. As Laura said, I'm CEO of Bionow, and Bionow is a membership organisation and mainly focused on the north of England, but we've got members right across the UK and internationally as well. We are basically a networking organisation where our remit is to bring people together and better connect the companies that are based in the north with the expertise required for them to grow their businesses. So we bring people together through conferences, events, and we have a wide range of standard benefits for our members, which probably other membership organisations do too. And really, we're looking to sort of capture and continue the growth, the significant growth which has happened in the life science sector over the last many years now. We've been going about 20 years now, 10 years in our current not-for-profit life science membership format. And the reason we were sort of approached, I think, or the conversation went to us producing a database with Enterprise Ireland is that we've got because we've been going for such a long time, we hold a deep and sort of historic bank of information relating to how the sector's developed, and we're really well connected across the north and wider UK. So we've got the route to sort of get that information. Okay, so maybe just a short sort of overview of the life science sector. I guess most of you will know this, but according to the UK has a bioscience and health technology database project, which has been running for about 10 years. According to the latest version of that, there's around 180,000 people employed in the sector, turnover in excess of 55 billion, and comprises about 4,500 companies. The sort of pharmaceutical elements of that's including the service and supply chain segment is around 900 to 1,000 companies, 9 to 10 billion, and are over 30,000 people employed. So it's a pretty big industry, and it's a pretty important industry to the UK. Two of the world's top 15 pharmaceutical companies headquartered here. And it's I think I understand it's about the third largest industry in the UK, so important. And there's been and the UK government and the UK generally, I mean, there's some real sort of indications that investment's going to continue to grow that industry, and increasingly sort of focused on manufacturing as well, and the manufacturing elements, which is that's a real development really, but. Just noted a few sort of drivers for growth here. The UK government's pledged to increase R&D investment significantly by 2027 and beyond, hopefully. The onshoring agenda, there's a big onshoring agenda around bringing capabilities in the manufacture of pharmaceuticals back onto UK soil, primarily because of the challenges we faced during the pandemic. And then there's the pandemic preparedness sort of capability, which we lack as well, and we developed pretty quickly through the vaccine task force and through the recent pandemic. But so they're two real key areas of focus right now. And recently, probably as a result of some of that, the UK government announced the Global Britain Investment Fund, which was much bigger across all manufacturing, but 354 million is focused on life sciences manufacturing. And that's aimed at attracting increased investment from overseas, so new investment and existing sort of companies to invest further in life science manufacturing. Okay, so now moving on to the site database that we've prepared for Enterprise Ireland and ultimately for you guys. But we were approached by Enterprise Ireland to create a database of that industry, as Laura mentioned earlier. We started off by taking our own information that we had, our own databases, our own knowledge of the industry. We've used heavily the data in the UK Biosciences Health Technology Database. We're a founding data partner to that, and there's a number of data partners, probably 20 across the UK, who all contribute their data annually to this database project, and that's all brought together and produced each year. So there's a sort of quite a strong database to build upon and to analyse further and to provide more detail. And I'll come back to that. I'll show you, give you some examples of that, because that forms the basis of the database. And then, of course, there's also the data available via Enterprise Ireland's Market Research Centre, as Laura mentioned some of the reports that have come out of that centre as well, and we've used that data as well. So we started off with a big pot of data and list of companies, and we basically analysed that and looked at brought that up to date and made sure there was no duplicates, and started off with a list of life science sites totaling 7,013 sites across the UK. And then we needed to sort that down a bit before we could do real in-depth analysis. So we used some of the, in the database, there's some sector and business activity codes within that database that you can use for searching. I'll show you that in a minute. But what we used, both the segment codes, so segment codes are listed on the left-hand side of this slide, and you'll see they range from antibodies and therapeutic proteins all the way through to wound care and in vitro diagnostic technology. And we looked at each of those segments and decided whether it was definitely likely to have some manufacturing elements to it, or possibly had some, or didn't. It was unlikely to. And we rated them yes, no, and possible. And we did the same for another search term which is in the database called business activity codes, and you'll see that ranges from research and development, which won't have any manufacturing elements to it, through to after sales and repair. And in the middle there's some manufacturing, both in-house and contract, and service, where there may be some possible scope for being in scope for what we were interested in. We combined those in a search which was both segment code and business activity code, either yes or possible, and that resulted with a long list of sites potentially in scope of 1,641 sites. So that was sort of our starting point to really start to analyse those sites further. And we then looked at each of those sites independently, and that was a member of the Bionow team visited the website, or if the website wasn't available or it wasn't cleared, it did some further research just to determine that that site, not the company, but the site itself actually was active in manufacturing or making something life science related. There's a bit more definition here in italics about what the sort of things we included in that sort of broad definition were, but they have to be specifically manufacturing something. That led us to identify 428 of those sites that we deemed active in manufacturing. And then those 428 sites were further analysed in detail, actually by just me, a single individual. And we did that so we could get a consistent analysis of those companies. So there was no sort of individual sort of variation or sort of in the judgment of that. And they are grouped into type of company. They're down the left here, and they range from biotech through to service and things in between. Aspects of manufacture undertaken, so primary manufacture, fill, finish, etc. Product types produced, so everything from small molecules through to instrumentation, and then sometimes other or unknown. And then, if appropriate, a medicinal format produced, so tablets, capsules, etc. So we went through each of those 428 sites in detail. That was visiting websites, sometimes calling up the companies, and or looking at for news stories or some investment that's been made that allowed us to understand what exactly was happening at that site. There we go. So this result, so the resulting database, which I will come to shortly and let you have a look at and try and do some live searching in. We've got now an accurate, qualified and up-to-date database, specifically of the companies operating in the pharma and medtech manufacturing sectors. There's all the 7,000 sites across the UK are still listed in there, but we haven't done the additional analysis of those. The database contains a wide range of information about the sites, all of the sites, and that ranges from business name, the type of sector they're in, the website and address. There's some turnover band and employment number band information. It's banded, it's not specific for data protection type reasons. There's no personal information in there either for the same reasons. But there is subsector information in the SIC codes. types of companies, and then onto the elements that we've added on aspects of manufacturing, product types, etc., etc., etc. And there's also a little bit more information about the 428 sites. So we've added some notes as well to give some sort of deeper sort of analysis, I guess, and some ability to understand a bit further what the site's actually doing. So of the 428 sites, I was playing with the database over the last few days, and it's really interesting because I've never used the database in this way, and having done the extra analysis, really interesting to see where are these companies based, what types of companies are they, what sort of turnover they have, and it's really easy to do, and you'll see that when we get to the database. But so how do they split up? The 428 sites are basically split between the biopharmaceuticals and medical technologies manufacturing sectors. So there's more in the biopharmaceutical sector. And then we've done a split of the regions of where they are across the UK, and they're shown on this map here. I think I've got them in roughly the right positions across the UK. Also, and I did some turnover just analysis, and over 100 have turnover of between 1 and 5 million, and 183 of over 5 million. So 283 of those sites are 1 million plus turnover. So sort of gives you the ability to understand what sort of size they might be and what interest they might be to be for you guys as well. So so there's some interesting information in there. And I think one of the things I did do is looked at the north, because that's what I'm most particularly interested in. And my suspicion was that, and our hope was that we'd see a strong representation from the north, and we do. There's the majority of the companies are in the north of England, in this area here, and obviously quite a number still in the southeast, the greater southeast. So across the east of England, the southeast, and I included London in that one there as well. So two key areas you might want to consider if you're trying to segment the country into areas to focus on where there's a lot of manufacturing. They would be two that sort of jumped out there. Okay, so searching the database. As we've said, the database is there to be used by you guys, and constructed it in a way to allow you to do your own search and analysis. So using the filter function, I will do this live. I'll try to do this live shortly. But for example, using the filter function on the top row of the database, you might search for some combinations of the different columns and search term areas in there. So you might search for sites with greater than 1 million turnover. I've given the columns here. In the pharma sector, focused on small molecules, and I did that yesterday, and it totaled 26 sites. Or, for example, contract manufacturers who produce tablets, and there were 17 sites there. So I'm going to try and do that live now. So if you allow me to give me a minute, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to re-share a different screen and show you the database. So there we go. So I appreciate you won't be able to see all the detail on this, but hopefully it'll give you a sort of idea of the sort of general layout of the database for when you're going to get this later on. So first of all, there's if I scrolled all the way down here, there's 7,000, I think it's 13 sites listed in the data. That's basically the database, and the columns A to AL, and I'll just have a quick skip through them, are basically the UK Bioscience database. They're the information that's in that. So you've got identifiers, you've got business name, you've got incorporation year, etc., company registration numbers. And then you start to get into some of the sort of sector sub-classifications that I talked about earlier. The segment code was one of the search terms we used to create our sort of long list of companies. There are some of these are complete, some aren't, depends on the company, some of these areas. There are some notes in this database that talk in the data dictionary and the introduction that talk about how to use these and what those sectors relate. These criteria segments relate to. The business activity code was another one we used for our search term to identify our long list of companies. And we move across the database, There's some LinkedIn information and Twitter, but lots of website if websites are available, there's the odd one without. Addresses are all in there. And that allows you to see the region that they're in. This is the term I used to produce the map of where all the companies are. There's some information about LAP areas if people are interested in those. Then we move into sort of employment band descriptions, so giving you the sort of general bands that companies, size of companies, and the turn. Then we move into the turnover as well, and that again I'll probably use that one in a minute. We go through SIC code and we finalize with primary SIC code information here, description. So up to AL is the sort of information in the main database. And then from AM onwards, these are some of the columns we use to do the search, to start the search and start the creation of this additional information in the database. So I taught the initial sites, the 1,600 are available in column AO. So if I turn that to yes, we get all those sites there. We then did our more specific check on those sites, and column AQ is the site which the column which identifies the 428 sites which we deemed to be in scope. So you probably won't be able to see it, but there is 428 companies now that have come up as in the search term. So I'll leave it on that. I'll leave those all identified. And then these 428 sites are then, as I talked about earlier, are then the companies we've analysed much more deeply. And first of all, you've got the columns relating to type of company. They're in that red colour there. We've then got the areas of manufacture in blue. We've got the product types produced in green. And you'll see there's some, the yeses indicate that that's what they do, that activity at that site. And then in grey, finally, we've got medicinal format here. So that runs across here. And then finally, we've added notes, certainly on all these 428, we've added specific notes about, exactly what they do at that site. So these make medical, dental, and life sciences, injection molding. They do that activity, etc. This company here makes unlicensed medicines or specials. So it's that sort of bit more flavour on the sort of the criteria to allow you to sort of find out more about the companies. Okay, so I said I'd try and do some live searches. So I put two searches on earlier, didn't I, on my previous slide. So I said, if you're looking for sites with greater than 1 million turnover, so I'm going to use this turnover here. I'm going to select 1 million to 5 million, 5 million plus. That's greater than 1 million there, and that identifies 283 companies. And then I'm going to look at companies that are in the pharma sector. So I'm going to select that pharma and just select yes in that column in AS there. And I'm going to find the ones that are dealing with small molecules there. So I'm going to take column BH and identify it. Okay, so there's 26 sites there identified, and they're there, and it gives you some more information about them. So of those, there's some are in API manufacturing, some in specialist manufacture, etc., etc. So that was one search, or I mean the really sort of endless options really here for everyone, but I might try if I just deactivate those. I might try one more if you'll allow me to just. I think what I said was I said that we would select sites that are involved in contract manufacture. So I'll go across here. I'll select contract manufacture in this column here. And they are contract manufacturing, they're making tablets. So there we go, we get another 17 sites. So, and there's information about them. So I think that gives you enough. I think you get the general picture of how to search it, and as I said, that'll be available for all of you to play with at your own leisure. I'm just going to flick back to the slides. Okay, so I've shown you the database. I think that's a real potential source of information for you to identify some potential some customers or partners who you might want to contact. It doesn't give you, it doesn't give you an into the company. There's obviously, someone needs to help, or you need to get into sort of speak to someone at those companies as well. And if engaging with the manufacturing sector in the north of England and the wider UK actually is an area of interest, that there's a number of organisations who work in this space, but we have a wide number of manufacturing members, and so Bionow could be a good route for you to sort of start to engage with and start to network with some of them. Certainly, if there are members, we do member-to-member introductions, but also, a lot of that work is done through our events and conferences that we run. And one particular event which may be of interest to you is our Pharma Manufacturing Conference. We run this each year in a part of the north. It tends to rotate around the north. It was online last year, as we all were, but it revolves between the northwest, the northeast, and Macclesfield at AstraZeneca. And we work with a number of key members of ours, manufacturing members of ours, who are sort of partners in this conference to bring their people here, but also to deliver content that is really relevant to manufacturers as well. And some of that's aimed at bringing the northern manufacturing cluster close together and also linking it more widely. So that may well be an area of one of interest for you. And we run a whole range of other events, so you may want to consider those. Just visit our website if that's of interest, or drop me a line. Okay, well, that's it for me. I think I can see some questions coming in, so I'll hand back to you, Laura, now. And
that's brilliant. Thanks a million. I'll just go to the next slide and then I'll go to Q&A. I think Mary Claire is having some connection issues, so I'll do the Q&A on her behalf. So thanks for the questions, and keep them coming in. We'll address them just after this slide. So what now? Essentially, the database has been constructed to allow you to do your own searching. So for you then to take the database and use it as you like, but it's there for market intelligence and analysis as per your own company's specific target customers. So Geoff brought you through how to identify those in the database. It's obviously really in depth, it's clear, and it's a qualified list. So Geoff and the team have spent an awful lot of time qualifying all of the sites that you see. So I don't believe that a database like this has been created before. So it's a first, Geoff. Thank you very much. And the market intelligence, such as this database, should be essentially the heart of your export and growth strategy, because it's going to help you identify potential customers in the UK. And the database will provide companies with information then to explore opportunities in the life sciences manufacturing sector. So one thing we will say, I know that there are some companies on the call who are not Enterprise Ireland clients, but I do just want to mention, as Geoff mentioned there, that there is a likely increase due to reshoring and onshoring. So do please get in contact with us. We are looking to collaborate and to get in touch. So given the current situation, please do contact us directly. So I think that brings us to the Q&A. Yeah, brilliant. So we have a few questions coming in, and a couple of them have been, I think they're essentially the same thing. One of them was around, will the database show if any of the manufacturing site planned to expand or have any new planning? And a similar question, does the database indicate sites that have planned or upcoming investment expansion? But I believe, Geoff, this is just current active manufacturing sites. It doesn't show any potential CapEx investment. Right.
It doesn't at the minute, no, yeah. Laura. And I think, I mean, keeping that up to date is really, really tricky. I mean, it's tricky to keep a long list of the 7,000 sites up to date for the UK. So it doesn't sort of contain any current or ongoing information. But I think what I'd say is that there is turnover information. So usually if there's going to be a big or a reasonable size investor, they're going to have a certain level of turnover already, aren't they? So identifying the sort of sites that are big enough, either employee or turnover wise, and in an area of focus, then I think it would be down to sort of networking into those areas. If they're in the southwest of England, it would be sort of engaging with the sort of local infrastructure. And in the north, as I said, we know a lot about our members, and there is other membership organisations across the UK as well, in the southeast particularly. We certainly know of a number of investments that are potential or ongoing, in the north. I can think of several right now. So it isn't in the database, but it's out there if you can be specific about the sort of area that you're looking at. If you can narrow that big list down to a sort of manageable number, it allows you to, and there's further research that could be done. There's a lot of information out on the internet, isn't there? So if you've got a list of 20 companies that you think are probably in your area, and if they're going to invest, you're really interested, there's often news stories about potential investments going into sites from local areas who like to promote that as a sort of growth story. So it's not in the database, but it is there.
Absolutely. And I think there's our market research centre is there. And as Geoff said, if you can use that, if you identify, narrow down the list of companies that you're potentially looking at, there are sales and growth figures of various manufacturing companies. So if you do specify them, you can contact our market research centre and they can provide you with some information on growth figures over the last couple of years. And that should essentially give you a good guidance in terms of those companies that are potentially making investment. But also we have access to Protel projects as well through the market research centre. Or you can contact myself or Mary Claire. And this gives you a very good sight of upcoming CapEx investment across manufacturing. So I think using that in tandem with the database, you'll be able to have a full picture of the manufacturing landscape in terms of what's active now, but where the planned CapEx investment is coming from as well. So we did have a question. Our headquarters is in the UK, but our manufacturing is in Ireland. Would we be in this database?
So I'd hope, I don't know which company you are from, Adrian, but I'd hope you would be, your headquarters would be listed. So that's in the big 7,000 list of sites in the UK. So that's the whole, in the database, there is headquarters as well as, offices, as well as R&D sites, as well as manufacturing sites. So so you should be, is the answer. So I don't know the company, but hopefully when you get access to it, you can find that site. The manufacturing site wouldn't be, though, obviously. It would just be the headquarters of that company.
Thanks, Geoff. And another question came in around access to the database. So it will be sent out to our Enterprise Ireland clients following the event today, and it is free of charge. It's in a project that Enterprise Ireland have invested in. So that's a free of charge database for our clients. So another question, there's a couple of questions about your pharma manufacturing conference, Geoff. I don't know whether, I've attended since I joined in 2019. So it's been virtual, but hopefully it's going to be in person.
It was virtual last year. So this is from Shane. So Shane, there is an exhibition area when we do it face to face, and you can exhibit. You can do that online as well. We do that online. We're really hoping that it won't be. We've started to do face to face conferences again. We did our oncology event a few weeks ago. So unless something changes, we'll be doing it. And what was the other? There was another question, wasn't it, about previous attendees on it. So, there is. If you search, I can either provide them for. If you search Bionow Pharma Manufacturing Conference 2019 it should still be available out who attended, and if it's not, then I'm happy to provide that information with you. And we generally use last year's attendees as a sort of indicator, so I can provide those to you, Shane, if you want to. And my contact details. Yes, we can. Laura, can we do that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll follow that up with the email as well. No problem.
So Shane, also, if you want more information about, or anyone wants any more, please use that to drop me a line, and we'll provide you with that information about previous activities or any of the activities that we do.
Thank you. So we have a question for the contacts of the 428 companies you noted. Is there a typical role they occupy? Procurement, or is it more of a mixed list of whoever you are able to identify?
So we don't have named contacts in the database. That was primarily for data protection reasons, and also because those people change often quite rapidly. So there's a website, there's a primary address, an actual address of the site, and again, it's pretty easy nowadays to just go to that website and identify the point of contact you're trying to roughly identify. If that's not possible through a sort of very cold and direct approach, I'd suggest maybe a networking through one of the organisations. Certainly, if they're a member of ours, we often have some further details, but I can't put it in a publicly available database.
Thanks, Geoff. Is there additional info available for companies who are members of Bionow?
Additional in terms of, was that it? Sorry, Laura, is that additional information available, was it?
Yeah, additional information.
There's no additional information to this database, but there is additional information as a member of Bionow if, you want, as I said, we do introductions between member to member introductions all the time. The membership team do that. And, you have got access to your membership manager. And if you don't know who that is, contact me. And you've got access to their knowledge and our knowledge base where if you're trying to find specific contacts at companies or for all the other things we do as well.
Sure.
But this is Enterprise Ireland's database now, that we've prepared this for them. So hopefully that clarifies.
Thanks, Geoff. So another question, are the sites pure manufacturing, or do they also include development elements?
Some sites will and some sites won't. So what we've done is we've looked at the 1,600 sites that were potentially, we thought, that generally look like they were manufacturing. We've excluded any that would be only development, only R&D, office, logistics type sites. We sort of they're in the wider list, which you can go back to if you want to. But in the 428, they must have, or they have a manufacturing element. They may have other things around that site, but they've got a manufacturing element to that site. So some won't have other things on that site as well. But that sort is just primarily focused on the manufacturing element. There is, as I said, there's other search terms in the database that you could go back to. Now, I showed you the approach we took to identify those manufacturing, but you can go back and use the business, the activity codes that I talked about that are earlier on in the database across, I can't remember the exact column, but you could use those to identify sort of development sites and do your own sort of version of this or your own research into this. So that's why we left the whole database there and searchable and sortable, so that you can sort of have a look at other aspects of the industry as well. And I think that's the power of this database. And I don't, as Laura said, I don't know that anyone's using it like this, in the UK, which is a bit of a shame actually, since it's it's our project. So certainly something we could maybe do with raising our game on there.
Thanks, Geoff. So another question in just says, thank you. The database looks very well researched and has had a lot of work put into it. And I agree, Geoff, your team have been brilliant. It's been a complex task to try and get those 7,000 down to 428. Can you let me know if if it's website based or downloadable? And it's in Excel format. So that's how you will receive it, as an Excel spreadsheet. A question, is there an Irish equivalent database? Good question, Stephen. I'm not 100% sure, but I will find out for you. I'll speak to our colleagues in Ireland and I'll see if there's some similar market intelligence available for you. And how do I become a member of Bionow?
That's easy. You can go on the website. Or drop me a line and I'll put you in touch with someone who can talk to you about that. Very happy to do that always.
Brilliant. Thanks, Geoff. And I do have to say that we've found a lot of value working with Bionow. So I would encourage you, because they do have some fantastic events, and their pharma manufacturing is one of them next year. Then, sorry, just going back to the database query you had about development. Can they get an unfiltered list of development only companies?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you cut it. The whole list is in there, so you'd have to use the one of the. I'm happy to guide you about how you might get that development sort of, but it's basically the business activity code that you'd use. I can't open the database right now, but it's one of the. I can give you the column to search for, so you can create that yourself easily. You know, you'd just select that business activity code, from the filter. And then you'd have that list out of the 7,000 companies that exist. It should filter it down again. And then you could use other criteria to further filter that as well, in the same way we did. So that's why we sort of left the database in an Excel format like this. I mean, it's very flexible and allows you to do other search and other things as well. But yeah, if you can't, I can happy to sort of have a discussion on offline to sort of help you if you want to do that, and if it's not obvious when you get hold of it.
Brilliant, thanks, Geoff. Is Bionow membership open to Irish companies? And that's a yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like I say, we're keen to have our companies access you guys, and you access our companies, and that sort of, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good network for collaboration and partnership as well, not just around kind of innovation and that. And I know that you guys are very active in terms of various events, not just your big conferences as well. It's something that you like to get everyone to use the network within Bionow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how will the database be kept up to date and with any changes that happen?
That's a good question. So the database is updated annually. So the UK database is done annually. It's a massive undertaking, that, and this is something Laura and Mary Claire and I have talked about really. And it will need refreshing. I mean, it's certainly those 428 companies now are up to date as of now. So that should last a reasonable length of time. In terms of updating, we'd need to have a look at an update. I'm not aware, we haven't quite got a plan for that, but we are aware that it will need to be done at some stage.
Yeah, we have discussed that, and it might be that we provide an update in the next 12 to 18 months, or we at least look at it to see if there has been any extensive changes.
Yeah. Exactly. And we will look again at the UK database and bring in any new bits into that. That will be relatively straightforward, and we're also keen for people to use it and sort of give us some feedback and, before see what would further be useful to add in or not do, see what's useful to you guys as well. So keen to get some feedback really.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a description of the business activity code?
Yeah. So as I said, there's some other tabs in. There's the main database, and then there's some other tabs, and in those tabs there's the detail on what those codes mean. Yeah. So it's sort of BAB means X, Y, Z. So those tables I showed you on the slide are they're taken from some of the accompanying notes that are in the tabs on the database.
Brilliant. Will there be user support for the database on an ongoing basis? I think on this one, Jean, when you get the database, I suppose the first piece of advice I would say is save a master copy. We'll obviously have a master copy ourselves, but save a master copy and then maybe have another copy that you use to play around with. But it's fairly relatively easy to use if you're used to using Excel. It's once you play around with it, as using the top, the filters at the top, it's fairly self-explanatory, but I'm sure if there is anything specific that you're looking for that you can't find, Geoff would be happy to help, or we will be, myself and Marie-Claire.
Absolutely.
Lots of praise, Geoff, for your database. Looks very extensive. Thank you and well done. And then what does membership to Bionow cost? I think that might have it. There's various scales of membership, so I guess that's something that we can pass on maybe your details. Or I don't know whether you want us to pass on membership team details with your details, Geoff.
I know that's fine. Contact me, and it depends on the size of the company and the level of membership you take. It's all on our website. Paul, I think, has asked that. So, Paul, feel free to check the website out. It ranges, as I said, from a small company to a large company. But one of our membership managers would be happy to talk to you and take you through what's the most appropriate and valuable sort of approach for you, for your company.
Brilliant. I think we've answered everything. I'm just going to quickly just check the chat. Yeah, I think we've covered everything there. That's it really. So I guess just on the next slide, Geoff, I haven't put your details up on the slide, Geoff, but I'll share them when I send a follow-up email to everybody. But my contact details are there, and Marie-Claire's contact details are there. So please do get in touch with us, and we're looking forward to working with you. And as mentioned previously, if you are a UK company, we do look at areas of collaboration. So also feel free to contact us as well. Thanks very much. And thanks a million, Geoff and the team, for all your hard work on the database. And we're looking forward to, I suppose, using it now and making the most of it.
Yeah. Interested in the feedback. Thanks very much, everyone. Nice to be able to present it today.
Brilliant. Thanks, Geoff. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.